CEO's paralyzed daughter sat alone at her birthday cake until a single dad said, "Can we join you?" The rain whispered against the windows of the small cafe, leaving gentle streaks down the glass, like soft tears of its own. It was the kind of gray afternoon that seemed to stretch endlessly, where everything felt slower, quieter, as if the world itself was waiting for something unspoken. Amelia Blake sat in the corner near the window, her blonde hair loosely tucked behind her ears, damp from the light drizzle outside. She wore a navy sweater, the sleeves pulled over her hands as if trying to protect herself from more than just the cold. On the table before her, there was a small round cake with delicate pastel flowers adorning the white icing. No candles, no friends, no family. Her fingers rested motionless on the arms of her wheelchair. The lower half of her body had not responded in 2 years, since the fall. A single misstep, a fleeting moment, and everything changed. Today was her 27th birthday. Her mother should have been there. They used to come to this cafe every year, just the two of them, sharing cake and laughter by the window. But now her mother was gone, taken by a stroke last winter, quietly, cruelly. Her father was on a business call halfway around the world in Switzerland, discussing figures with distant colleagues in suits. Amelia exhaled deeply, lowering her gaze. She didn't expect anyone to remember. She didn't even want anyone to. But as she sat there, the silence was broken by a small voice. "Is it your birthday? Can we sing with you?" Amelia blinked and looked up. A little girl stood by her table, eyes wide beneath a yellow rain hat. No older than 6, she held a paper drawing of a cat wearing a party hat, the edges smudged from the rain. Behind her, a man hesitated. He stepped forward quickly, placing a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "Ava," he said softly, "we shouldn't bother people." The girl frowned up at him. "But she's all alone, Daddy. Birthdays are not supposed to be alone." Amelia couldn't help but watch them. The man, perhaps in his mid-30s, looked tired but kind, with soft stubble and eyes that seemed to carry more than his years. He met Amelia's gaze with an apologetic smile, already turning to lead his daughter away. But before he could, Amelia's voice broke the quiet. "Please," she whispered, offering a fragile smile. "Please do." There was a brief pause, and then the little girl's face lit up. Then Ava beamed, her face lighting up as she hurried to pull up a chair next to Amelia. The man hesitated for a moment, then glanced at Amelia as if asking for permission. She nodded once, and he silently took the seat across from her. Ava leaned in toward the cake, her eyes wide with excitement. "You forgot the candles," she said with a giggle. Amelia smiled softly. "I guess I did." "That's okay," Ava responded cheerfully. "We can still sing." And sing they did. Off-key, mismatched, but full of life, Ava led the way with all the enthusiasm only a child could have, while her father joined in with a calm, steady voice. Amelia watched them, her heart racing, not out of nerves but because of something deeper, something she hadn't felt in a long time, something that had been buried for far too long. As they finished the last line, "Happy birthday to you," Amelia lowered her head, her hand covering her mouth. Her shoulders shook, though she made no sound. But the tears came, unexpected, warm, and real. Not from sadness, but from the raw kindness of it all, the simple warmth of their presence, the quiet human connection she hadn't felt in months. Ava tilted her head, looking at her curiously. "Are you okay?" Amelia nodded quickly, wiping her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, thank you. That was the best part of my day." Ava smiled proudly. Her father gave a quiet, understanding nod, but said nothing. They all sat in silence for a moment, just 3 strangers sharing a moment together at a birthday table. But in that silence, something shifted. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Amelia Blake didn't feel quite so alone. A week later, the sky over Windermere hung heavy with stretches of silver clouds. The air carried the scent of wet paint, fresh wood, and faint lavender soap, filling the small studio tucked between a florist and a bookstore downtown. Inside, the soft murmur of brushes on canvas and the quiet notes of piano music mixed with the rhythmic sound of careful breathing, creating a peaceful atmosphere. Amelia Blake sat in front of her easel, her canvas untouched, a brush held awkwardly in her left hand. Her right hand, once so steady and sure, now lay limp on her lap. This was her third week in a 6-week art therapy class for stroke survivors, trauma patients, and anyone hoping to regain mobility or find peace through creativity. For Amelia, it was more about learning patience than painting. She dipped the brush into a pale blue, her strokes shaky and uneven as she dragged it across the canvas. Her therapist often said, "Beauty is in the effort." Amelia wanted to believe that. The bell above the front door jingled, and a familiar voice cut through the soft hum of brushes and murmurs. "Daddy, that's her." Amelia looked up, startled. There, just beyond the doorway, stood Noah and Ava. The little girl waved excitedly through the open classroom door, pointing straight at Amelia. Behind her, Noah gave a small, sheepish wave. Amelia's chest tightened, not from fear or embarrassment, but from surprise and, oddly, relief. Noah leaned in to speak with the receptionist, while Ava skipped happily toward the adjacent children's art class, a box of crayons in hand. Amelia returned her attention to the canvas, pretending to focus, though her hand trembled slightly. Minutes passed, and then a quiet presence appeared beside her. "I didn't know you were in this class." Noah's voice was gentle, low. Amelia looked up, brush still in hand. "I didn't expect to see you either," she replied, offering a tentative smile. Noah nodded toward her canvas. "That looks better than anything I could do." She let out a small laugh. "It's an abstract mess, but thank you." A brief silence followed, but it wasn't awkward. It was comfortable, respectful. He didn't ask her what had happened. He didn't tilt his head in pity or bring up wheelchairs or healing. He simply treated her as though they had casually bumped into each other, and it felt nice. "I drop Ava here every week," he added. "She says it's the best hour of her life." Amelia smiled, the warmth lingering. "She's something." "She is," Noah agreed. "I have no idea how she turned out so bright." Amelia lowered her gaze. "Maybe because she sees the world without fear." Noah nodded thoughtfully. "Or maybe she was just lucky enough to land in a family where love came before judgment." Before Amelia could respond, Ava's voice echoed from the next room. "Daddy, we're painting cats today." Noah grinned, turning toward the sound. "Duty calls," he said. Amelia watched him walk away, and for a brief moment, a strange sensation settled in her chest, a lightness. No grand moment, no confessions, just presence. Later that week, the rain returned to Windermere, heavier this time. The storm rolled in quickly, catching the town off guard. Amelia had come to the studio alone, determined not to miss her session, despite the dark clouds that had loomed overhead. When class ended, she wheeled herself to the door and stared out at the torrential downpour. Her sweater was thin, and the sidewalk back to her apartment was uneven and slick with puddles. She hesitated. Then, without a word, an umbrella opened beside her. "Noah," he said, but offered no other explanation, no commentary. He simply held the umbrella over them both, his other hand finding the handles of her chair. Slowly, carefully, he began to push, matching the rhythm of her breath with each step. They didn't speak the entire way home. Amelia didn't give any directions. He seemed to know the way. When they reached her building, Noah parked her under the awning, closed the umbrella, and gave a small nod. "You good?" he asked softly. Amelia nodded in response. Then, without another word, he left. That evening, Amelia returned to her usual seat by the window with a warm cup of tea. As she settled in, her gaze fell on something new resting on the small side table next to her painting supplies. A tiny box. She opened it slowly, almost cautiously. Inside was a delicate lemon tart, exactly like the one she'd shared with Ava on her birthday. At the top, there was a small note, written in neat, careful handwriting. "Still rooting for you. Nen." Amelia stared at the note for a long moment. Something inside her shifted, not with pain, but with release. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt truly seen, not as the daughter of a powerful CEO, not as someone defined by fate, not as a symbol, but as Amelia, just Amelia. She took a bite of the tart. It was sweet, real. Over the next few weeks, Amelia and Noah began crossing paths more often. Never planned, but often enough to feel like fate was at play. They ran into each other at the cafe, exchanged quiet laughs in the bookstore, and always parted with a warmth that lingered long after. One crisp afternoon, Amelia was at the cafe again, a palette and brush in hand. She had started painting with her left hand, the lines still shaky, but slowly improving. She was mixing teal and gold when Noah appeared, 2 cups in hand. He set one down in front of her. "I figured tea might not be enough today," he said with a smile. She smiled back, touched by the gesture. "Thank you." Noah sat beside her. "How's the painting?" She shrugged. "Not my best." "It looks honest," he said, "and that counts for something." Her smile faltered a little. "It's hard to feel in control anymore. My life used to make sense." Noah nodded, his expression softening. "Mine didn't either for a while. I was a chef in a high-end kitchen before Ava's mom got sick. Cancer. I left it all behind. After she passed, I had to raise Ava on my own. She was only 2. Amelia set her brush down. "That's a lot." He nodded again, slower this time. "It taught me to slow down. I was always trying to do everything at once. But Ava, she just needed me to be there." Amelia gazed at the palette, then spoke quietly. "I climbed Bear's Peak alone 2 years ago. It was supposed to be a celebration. I slipped. Everything changed." She paused, her voice tightening. "No one was with me. It was my choice to go alone. I thought I could handle it. Then the fall, the surgery, the paralysis, and when I came home, my mother was gone." Noah stayed quiet, his presence steady, listening without interruption. "I'm sorry," he said after a long moment, his voice gentle. Amelia gave a small smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "You don't sound like you pity me." "I don't," he replied. "I admire you." They sat in silence, a silence that needed no words to fill it. "I've met so many people who look at me and only see the chair or the money," Amelia said, her tone more curious than resentful. "You don't." "I see Amelia," Noah replied. "Just Amelia." Something inside her eased. She didn't say anything else. Later that week, Amelia attended her art therapy class. She painted a soft outline of a mountain, kissed by gold as if sunlight were breaking over something broken. She painted slowly, without rush or fear. When she stepped out of the building, Noah was waiting for her beneath the glow of a street lamp, an umbrella in hand. "She's inside," he said, nodding toward the door. "I figured you'd want a dry ride." Amelia smiled, surprised but not startled. "Thanks." As she rolled past, he called after her, "Get some sleep." That night, back in her apartment, Amelia studied her painting. It wasn't perfect. The lines were crooked, the colors bled at the edges, but it was hers, and it felt like a beginning. In those small moments, something fragile had started to take root. Not a rescue, not a cure, just a hand held out in the rain, and for now, that was enough. A few days later, Amelia's phone buzzed constantly, her mother's old ringtone, a sound she had hurriedly deleted years ago. She didn't answer, but the notifications kept coming. With a deep breath, she opened the news alert. Her heart stopped. The headline read in bold black letters, "Heiress crippled after risky solo climb, hidden away in suburban coffee shop." Below it was a grainy photo clearly taken by a paparazzi. Amelia in her wheelchair, a faint, unsteady smile on her lips. The cafe window behind her. The caption was cruel. Her father, the tech billionaire, refuses to let her face the world again. Amelia pressed her hand to her mouth, her breath quick and shallow. Her heart pounded, adrenaline and dread rising in her chest. Betrayal cut deeper than the accident ever had. She stared at the phone screen, then closed her eyes. The tears burned, but she forced them back. She deleted the app, turned off her phone, and ignored the doorbell, the chatter, the world outside her apartment. For 2 days, she disappeared. No art class, no cafe, no replies to her messages. Lisa knocked once, leaving a teddy bear at her door with a note. "Get better soon. Love, Ava." On the third night, just before midnight, there came a soft, tentative knock. Amelia curled up in her blanket fort of pillows in the living room. Snow melted outside, casting slushy shadows through the crack in the door. No guards, no applause, just Noah's silhouette standing in the hallway light, holding an umbrella and a cup of tea. He stepped inside quietly, placed the umbrella in the corner, and set the tea on the coffee table. Amelia didn't move. She just stared at the floor, her breath shallow. The room smelled faintly of lemon and rain. Noah opened his mouth, then closed it, unsure of what to say. He sank into the armchair beside her, neither touching her nor speaking. The silence between them was gentle, not heavy. Outside, the snow stopped. Inside, her breath slowed and she felt him there, solid, unspoken but not demanding, not pitying, just present. They didn't say anything. No jokes, no small talk. But the candle in the corner flickered toward them, offering a trace of warmth. Sleep began to creep over her. At 4 a.m., she woke with a start. Noah was still sitting in the chair, sleeping peacefully, a folded blanket draped across his lap, his hand still holding the mug with cold tea. Amelia stared at him, his face relaxed, calm in sleep, his hand gripping the empty mug handle. She realized that he had likely been sitting there, not just for hours, but through the very hours her phone and world had gone quiet. A tear fell down her cheek. She blinked it away, whispering, "You stayed?" Noah stirred, blinking slowly. He didn't seem surprised, just soft. "That's what you do for someone you care about," he said, his voice husky with sleep, calm like the dawn. Amelia felt a warmth she hadn't known since her mother's death, an absence of pity and a devotion not found in tabloids. She leaned forward and gently placed her hand on his, not to whisper thanks, but to anchor him there, to anchor herself. Noah didn't pull away, nor did he urge conversation. He simply leaned in so they both sat, watching the snow melt outside together in the quiet. Neither of them spoke again. But in the stillness of that living room, Amelia learned something new. Connection can exist without performative gestures, and healing can start not with words, but with a silent vigil that asks nothing, but simply is. They stayed like that until the first light of dawn crept into the room. Eventually Noah stood, left the chair, and added more firewood to the hearth. He gathered his umbrella and left quietly, leaving Amelia alone in the room. She lay there, eyes wet but steady. Something inside her shifted. Painful, yes, perhaps shattered, but not yet broken. She reached for the crumpled note on the table beside the teacup and turned it over. On the back, someone had written, "I won't let the world steal you." That day, Amelia Blake reopened her phone. She drafted responses, returned messages, and wheeled herself back into the art studio. Not because the world had forgiven her, but because she had someone who saw her and stayed with her without asking for anything in return. And that made all the difference. Under the warm golden glow of the cafe lamp, Amelia returned to her painting attempts with renewed resolve. Each brushstroke with her left hand felt like reclaiming the self she thought had been lost forever. Her lines wavered, angles were shaky, but beneath the imperfections, something genuine flickered. Her essence was resurrected on the canvas. It was that afternoon when Noah entered the studio, carrying a framed painting with a wooden edge. Amelia paused mid-stroke as he placed it beside her canvas. The frame held a message handwritten on cream-colored paper. "Beauty isn't symmetry, it's sincerity." Noah said nothing. He simply nodded and turned to leave. Amelia stared at the words for a long moment, her gaze shifting from the unsteady strokes of her own painting to the fragile honesty of the message. Later, outside the cafe, Ava tugged at Amelia's sleeve, holding a bag of sugar candy hearts she and her father had made. "Millie, let's make candy hearts," Ava said eagerly. They spent the afternoon at a small wooden table, Ava cutting pastel-colored icing into heart shapes and giggling when her sugar heart designs drooped. Amelia helped press them onto the wax paper, smiling. Noah watched silently from the corner, his smile gentle as he observed the mother-daughter-like bond forming between them. "Ava, taste test," Amelia encouraged, offering a heart. Ava giggled, popped it into her mouth, and declared, "Perfect." That evening, as darkness settled over Windermere, Noah and Ava paused outside Amelia's apartment. Ava gripped Amelia's hand. "Can I come tomorrow? Make more candy?" she asked shyly. Amelia touched Ava's hair and smiled. "Anytime, Ava." Noah nodded politely, his features softening with warmth. Then the next Sunday arrived. Amelia's father, James Blake, showed up unannounced. He stepped into the same cafe where she worked on her art, scanning the room with a cold, appraising gaze. He had flown in early, papers in hand, a presence that demanded attention. He spotted Amelia and approached. In his measured tones, he asked, "Is that the child they say you spend time with?" Amelia's stomach twisted. She glanced at Ava, who was watching her with innocent curiosity from across the room. She took a deep breath. "That's Ava. She's just a little girl with too much sugar and a big imagination," Amelia replied quietly. James frowned. "Your father knows nothing of this. You shouldn't be associating with people of lesser standing." Amelia closed her sketchpad firmly, standing shaking but resolute. "He's more real than any boardroom executive you've ever placed in front of me. He doesn't judge me for falling. He simply stays." James's jaw tightened. The cafe felt suddenly too small, too intimate. He turned and walked away without another word, leaving behind a stunned silence. Amelia exhaled sharply, the weight of his disapproval pressing down on her. But as she glanced at Ava beside her, beaming with candy-heart smiles, she realized she had made a choice. Over the next few days, Amelia painted. Her strokes grew bolder, deeper. On one canvas, she painted golden haloed candlesticks beside a cracked brown chair. On another, a small figure knelt, drawing hearts on sugar candy. On each piece, she signed her name in large loops. Amelia Millie Blake. Noah watched quietly from a corner, never interrupting unless invited. One day, when she offered him tea, he told her softly, "They're honest works." She nodded, brushing a stray lock of hair away. "Because I don't fear my own flaws anymore." Lenient sunlight filtered through the cafe windows one afternoon as Ava presented Amelia with a handmade gingerbread cookie decorated in mosaic sugar hearts. "For your courage," Ava said, hugging Amelia tightly. Amelia's eyes filled with emotion, and for the first time, she let that vulnerability remain. She looked across the table at Noah and whispered, "I think I can do this." He smiled softly and passed her a warm mug. Neither of them spoke again. There was no need. That night, Amelia sat by the window in her apartment, the framed message Noah had given her nearby. The sugar-coated memory of Ava's joy lingered in her mind. She knew she was no longer alone in the effort. Imperfect hands, guided by sincerity, had begun to heal her, stroke by stroke. The next bright morning, Amelia walked into the small community center adjacent to the cafe, painting supplies tucked under her arm. She pushed open the door to the arts and crafts room and paused. Tables were arranged in a circle, colorful paper, tempera paints, brushes, and water cups all set and ready. Outside, children's laughter drifted overhead. Noah was already there, setting out chairs for the kids. Ava sat beside him, helping line up little plastic jars of paint. Amelia's heart fluttered. She'd volunteered to teach a weekly painting class for children with disabilities, something she'd never imagined herself doing, but something she felt an undeniable pull toward. When Noah saw her enter, he gave her a gentle nod. "Morning," he said. Amelia smiled. "Thanks for helping." Noah shrugged modestly. "Just making it easier." Children began filing in. Some used wheelchairs, some crutches, and others needed hand-over-hand guidance. Amelia took her place at the head table, greeting the kids with soft hellos and introducing herself as Mrs. Millie. Their faces lit up instantly. No pity in their eyes, only curiosity. Noah led Ava around, showing her how to assist the younger students. When a boy dropped his brush, she bent to help him pick it up. When a girl's cup of water tipped over, Ava was there to clean it up. Amelia watched, a wave of quiet pride swelling in her chest. Later, Ava approached. "Millie, do you want to make a painting circle with me?" she asked. Amelia glanced at her canvas, then nodded, following Ava under the warm yellow light in the cafe corner after class. They painted side by side, creating hearts, mountains, and sunflowers with uneven petals. Noah ordered tea for them both. They talked about simple things, the sun slipping lower in the sky as winter approached, their favorite ice cream flavors, Ava's excitement for her winter recital. Somewhere between a soft laugh and a shared glance, their hands brushed, a brief touch, fingertips meeting over the wooden table. A spark. Amelia pulled away quickly, surprised, but something deeper within her softened. "It still hurts," she whispered later that evening, once Noah had driven her home in the quiet darkness. Snow flurries danced around the hood of her car. "But it doesn't define me anymore," she added, her voice fragile but steady. Noah's eyes met hers in the soft glow of the dashboard lights. He placed his hand over hers, his fingers warm, steady. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. And then they kissed, not fiercely or dramatically, but softly, like a feather brushing the surface of long-dormant hope. Noah's thumb gently stroked her wrist. Amelia felt no pressure, no expectation, only compassion, depth, and mutual respect. It was in that moment that Amelia realized she wasn't broken in ways that couldn't heal. She wasn't damaged. She was simply choosing someone brave enough to sit with her pain and tender enough to offer his presence. They embraced under the street lamplight, snow gently drifting around the car. It felt sacred. Neither spoke of tomorrow. They simply acknowledged what had always been possible. Connection, no strings attached, only sincerity. Later, Amelia found a small canvas in her studio at home. She painted a mountain range in soft pastels, the sun rising behind peaks tinted in rose gold. At the edge, she painted two figures, one tall, one shorter, side by side, holding brushes. She signed it simply, "Beauty is in the bond you choose." The following Sunday, she brought the painting to the cafe. Noah, not expecting it, stood speechless as she hung it on the wall behind their favorite corner. Above the painting, the words, "Beauty isn't symmetry, it's sincerity," still glowed from the wood frame he had given her weeks ago. She added a small note beneath, "For the hands that taught me how to hold hope." They stood together, side by side, watching as customers paused to read the note. Their fingers brushed again. Nothing needed to be explained now. Because when hearts learn to return after loss, after fear, they do so quietly, gently, and with choice. And in that choice lies true beauty. A week later, the cafe, where everything had started, was strung with pastel bunting and yellow fairy lights. Tables were arranged in a gentle circle, creating a warm, open space. The cake sat in the center on a white pedestal. Written in soft icing were the words, "To Ava, and the bravest woman I know." Amelia had chosen it herself. The wooden frame Noah had gifted her, the one that read, "Beauty isn't symmetry, it's sincerity," stood beside the cake, next to a small canvas painting of two joined hands under a rain-soaked umbrella. Amelia had painted it herself, signing it quietly in the corner, "Beauty is in the bond you choose." Ava, in a sky-blue dress with a floral bow in her hair, bounced with excitement on her chair. "This is going to be the best birthday ever," she whispered, her eyes sparkling. Amelia wheeled herself forward, her blonde hair gently pinned back, her face calm and glowing. Noah stood beside her, one hand resting gently on the back of her chair. The cafe was filled with familiar faces. Parents from Ava's school, the art therapist from Amelia's clinic, and even the barista who had once lit her birthday candle in silence. Now, all eyes were on Amelia. Ava stood tall on her seat and leaned toward the mic. "Millie and Daddy Noah," she said, "thank you for making me brave." The room burst into soft applause. Then the door opened again. James Blake, Amelia's father, stepped inside. The once untouchable tech mogul now looked strangely human in the quiet space. No assistant, no phone in hand, just James, older, tired, and holding a small velvet box in one hand. He paused at the threshold before walking toward his daughter. The silence was deep, but not cold. I owe you a real apology," he said. Amelia blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. James continued, "I was wrong, Amelia. I was wrong for not being there when you needed me most. I was scared. I didn't know how to help. So tiny paper butterflies hung from the ceiling of the school's multi-purpose room, fluttering with every breeze from the old air conditioner. Folding chairs squeaked beneath the weight of excited parents. Somewhere backstage, the sound of sneakers squeaking and kids practicing their lines echoed off the painted cardboard trees. Amelia sat near the front row, a bouquet of wildflowers in her lap. Her blonde hair was braided to the side, and she wore a pale blue dress that Ava had picked out for her. Noah sat beside her, holding her hand gently. Lisa, now comfortably calling Amelia Millie, giggled beside them, twisting a friendship bracelet around her wrist. Today was Ava's school play, or so they had been told. The principal welcomed everyone with a smile and a few awkward jokes. Then the lights dimmed slightly. One by one, the children came on stage, dressed as animals, sunflowers, and fluffy little clouds. Ava, in a sparkly bee costume, had 2 solo lines, both of which she delivered with the seriousness of a Broadway star. When the final song ended, the room erupted in applause. Proud parents snapped photos. Noah clapped, and Amelia beamed. As the applause began to die down, Ava remained on stage. She stepped forward, tiny hands gripping the mic stand as if she had rehearsed this moment in front of the mirror for days. Her wings shimmered slightly in the stage lights. "I have something more important than a song," she said, her voice steady and bright. "Can my family come up here, please?" Noah blinked in confusion. Did she just... Amelia's heart began to race. The teacher, standing just off stage, gestured gently toward them. Noah stood first, helping Amelia maneuver her wheelchair toward the steps. Lisa skipped behind them. They reached the stage just as Ava stepped forward, holding a small velvet box in her hands. "Mommy Millie," she said, her eyes glowing. "Will you marry Daddy Noah?" The entire auditorium gasped, then erupted into tears. Amelia froze for a moment, her hand flying to her mouth, her heart stuttering behind her ribs. She looked at Noah, who looked just as stunned, then sheepish. "I had a different plan," he whispered. "She got to it first." Laughter rippled through the audience. Noah took the box from Ava, knelt down, and opened it toward Amelia. The ring was simple, a slender silver band with a small diamond nestled like a quiet promise. But more than the ring, it was his face, earnest, calm, hopeful, that made her tears spill. Amelia's voice caught as she whispered, "Yes." Then louder, steadier, "Yes. Not because you complete me, but because you reminded me I was whole all along." Applause filled the room once more. Ava bounced on her toes, clapping for them as if she had just won the talent show. Lisa ran to hug them, wrapping her arms around both Amelia's waist and Noah's shoulders. Noah stood, gently slipping the ring onto Amelia's finger. She touched his face, and for a long moment, they simply looked at each other, not as broken people in need of fixing, but as two people who had chosen each other, eyes wide open. That night, after the crowd had gone and the paper butterflies had been packed away, they sat on the back steps of the school. Ava curled up in Noah's lap, sleepy from the excitement. Lisa leaned against Amelia's shoulder, humming softly. "I meant every word," Amelia said quietly. "For a long time I thought I was a half-finished story. Now I know I was just waiting for the right chapter." Noah kissed her temple. "Then let's write it slow. Every word, every page." The stars above Windermere blinked into view, one by one. The stage lights inside the school had gone dark, but in their hearts a spotlight lingered, warm, quiet, infinite. In that silence, with the children breathing softly beside them, and the night air holding its breath in reverence, Amelia knew that love hadn't saved her. It had reminded her that she was worth saving. Thank you for joining us for this heartfelt journey of healing, hope, and unexpected love. If Amelia and Noah's story touched something deep within you, if it reminded you that even in life's most broken moments, kindness and quiet courage can light the way, we invite you to stay with us. Subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more powerful, emotional, and beautifully human tales like this. Like, share, and comment to let us know how this story resonated with you, or share your own. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that might just change the way you see the world. Here, every story is a reminder. You are never too lost to be found, never too broken to begin again. Until next time, stay gentle, stay strong, and keep believing in the beauty of the human heart.